Bradshaw with the Bradshaw Group here with a few important, actually three, buyer tips that will hopefully help you be an informed buyer. After the information, I'm going to share a recent true story of how not practicing these tips can hurt you short term as well as long term. So, I'm sure you've heard all the talk about the big change in real estate. Well, it is a big change in some ways, but not a change at all in the basics of how real estate has always been done. You don't know what you don't know, so how can you be prepared? Well, hopefully this information is going to help you to be a better prepared and more informed and cautious buyer. So, like many buyers, you drive around, you see a house that catches your eye, and you want more information as soon as you can get it. I've done the same thing before I got into real estate. But what many people do is that they call the number on the sign that they see there in the yard. Maybe even set up an appointment to go see it with that particular company or that agent. What many people either don't realize or get caught up and happen to forget about it is that realtor has been hired and that company has been hired to represent the seller. And everything they do and everything they say is for the seller's best interest, not yours. So that agent is contractually obligated to represent the seller. It's their job, and it's defined that way by real estate law. Can't change that. So what does that mean for you as a possible buyer? Well, it means that all the information that you happen to share with that realtor, who, mind you, is doing their job, will be relayed to the seller. So then you become an unrepresented buyer. In other words, if you do decide to make an offer on that home, you have no representation and no one is looking out for what's in your best interest throughout the entire transaction, not just for making that offer. There's other things that come into play later. It's an easy situation to get into, but it's not a good place to be when you're probably making one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. Now, you may think it's not a big deal, but what I want to share with you is a story that I was recently involved in, and I was the seller's agent. As we were preparing the club for closing and working through the inspections, etc., we received the buyer's repair request, and I reviewed it with my seller client. Much to my seller's surprise, there were some pretty major repairs that were rightfully being requested by the buyer. My sellers, they had shared with me, of course, I already knew that they had only owned the home for less than 2 years, and they couldn't understand how the issues could have happened and developed in such a short amount of time. Well, they didn't. They were there beforehand. After asking questions, the seller shared with me that they had bought the house from the listing agent, and unfortunately, they also shared that they paid over asking price and that the inspection that they had done when they bought the house made no mention of the repair items that were now on their current buyer's request for repair. I asked them if they chose an inspector that was, first of all, was he experienced? And second of all, that they trusted his work. My sellers, one of whom was almost in tears by now, said that they had went upon the suggestion of the agent they bought the house from, who had been hired by the seller. The sellers obviously at first were upset with that realtor who sold them the house, and I explained that realtor did their job as outlined in the contract when they were hired by that seller. So they shouldn't have been upset with that realtor. I think mainly they were upset with themselves. But after the seller did the necessary repair work and we were fortunately able to close on it, the worst news for the seller was that the repairs that they have now had to pay for reduced the amount of money that they were hoping to receive at the closing table. They were planning on putting that money towards the purchase of their next home. So they learned a very valuable and costly lesson of being an unrepresented buyer when they purchased. Not that they chose to be an unrepresented buyer, but they got caught up in everything, and that's the way it ended for them. So the point of this story, it's easy to find yourself unintentionally being an unrepresented buyer. if you should find yourself in this scenario and for whatever reason you do decide to call the number on the sign in the yard, remember, there's 3 things you need to keep in mind. 1, remember who the listing agent is working for. Listing agent is working for the seller. Number 2, be cautious to not give away too much information to that agent, especially financial information. It only helps the seller side. It does not help you. And 3rd, choose your own licensed inspectors and pest control companies to check for termites, anything that you want inspected during your due diligence period. Have it done with someone that you know, you like, you trust, or someone that recommends somebody based on their experience. So when you have an experienced buyer's agent working for you, you should always feel like you're able to trust their guidance and their recommendations. That's what you're paying them for. They're representing you. I compare it kind of like going to court with an attorney, without an attorney, and expecting the other person's attorney to defend you in some way. It's probably not going to happen, and it won't end up with the outcome you expected anyway, right? So if you're thinking of buying, this information is for you. And if you have a friend who's thinking of buying, it's for them too. So make sure you like and share and subscribe for more beneficial information. If you're considering buying, remember, you can always call any one of my agents at the Bradshaw Group. Any one of us would be more than happy to sit down with you, answer all your questions completely, thoroughly, in an understanding manner, and we'll be happy to show you anything in the Greenwood and surrounding areas. And along with that, you can have the confidence that someone is going to be negotiating for you from the very beginning and guiding you through all the way to the end, from suggesting the correct price for a property, from scheduling inspections, going over the inspection for you. We do it all for you and with your best interest in mind. Again, this information has helped shed a little bit of light on real estate for you. Make sure to share it with others, and hopefully it's going to save you as well as somebody else from making what could be a costly mistake in just an oversight. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, and when you think of real estate, think of the Bradshaw Group. Give us a call at 864-341-7774. We'll be glad to sit down and talk with you, answer any questions you have. Or you can visit our website, www.discovergreenwoodsc.com. Thanks for listening, and hopefully it helped. Bye. There has got to